Hi everyone, I welcome you all once again to my series of lecture, that is Understanding Pharmaceutical Science with Dr. Hariharan. So today's topic we are going to discuss about innate immunity. So what we are going to discuss in this lecture is that, first we understand what is meant by an immunity, and second the different types of immunity, and more precisely today is about the innate immunity, how the innate immunity works and what are the various mechanisms how the innate immunity protects our body from the infectious organism. So let us understand the lecture with that, what is meant by an immunity. So if you see, immunity is nothing but a state of protection of our body from the various infectious diseases and also cancer. So the immunity works will be very less specific in nature or more specific in nature. So based on this, we can classify immunity into two types. One is the innate immunity and second is the adaptive immunity. So if you see, the innate immunity is nothing but it is the first line of defense of our body against the infectious foreign substances. So it is generally non-specific in nature, whereas the adaptive immunity, if we see, it is the more specific in nature and it is the second line of defense against the foreign substances. So once the foreign substances and antigen overcomes the innate immunity, then the adaptive immunity comes into play. So the innate immunity, once it cannot be controlled, has to stimulate the adaptive immunity also. So generally the adaptive immunity is highly specific in nature. It is more specific, even it can distinguish to a degree of a single amino acid change in the sequence. So also it produces a variety of memory cells. So this is all about the innate immunity and adaptive immunity. So today's lecture is more focused on about what is meant by an innate immunity. So we will understand about the innate immunity, as I already told that. So it is the primary defense mechanism of our body. Generally the innate immunity will present throughout the life of a person. So it composed of various disease resistance mechanism. So the disease resistance mechanism can be work as a anatomical barrier, a physiological barrier, or can be involved with the help of certain cells and molecules, certain chemical mediators and molecules also. So if you see that some of the cells and chemical mediator components started to keep in memory once it encounters the pathogen more frequently. So it can, with less specificity, it can eliminate the foreign substance, not that much specific enough like an adaptive immunity. So these molecules generally include, these cells generally includes a phagocytic cells, which may be a macrophage or neutrophils or even a natural killer cells. So apart from this, I have already told that the innate immunity is composed of the barriers, especially the skin and the mucous membrane. So if you see the various barriers of an innate immunity, so the innate immunity generally composed of 4 different types of barriers. So the first one is the anatomic barrier, so which structurally protects from the foreign substance. Second is the physiological barrier, which produce some secretions, thereby it will inhibit the foreign substance. And third is the phagocytic barrier, that needs an involvement of certain cells, macrophages, which can eliminate the foreign substance by endocytosis. And finally the fourth one is the inflammatory barrier. So inflammatory barrier, at the end, it generally helps to stimulate the adaptive immunity. So if we see the barriers one by one, first we start with an anatomic barrier. So anatomic barrier is just basically a physical barrier. It tends to prevent the entry of the pathogens directly, because it is the first line of defense mechanism against almost all the infections. So until the anatomical barrier is intact, so no foreign substance can enter our body. So if you see, the skin and the surface of the mucous membrane are generally included in this category. It is covering to the entire surface of any organism, especially the humans, and it will prevent the entry of the microorganism until or unless there is a scratch or cut happens to this layer. So the physiological barrier, especially the skin and the surface mucous membrane, protects us. So let us understand one by one. First we understand about the skin. So the skin is typically composed of two distinct layers. We can call this an epidermis and a dermis. So a thin outer layer we call as an epidermis, and a thick layer we call as a dermis. So generally the epidermis is packed of several layers of flattened epithelial cells, and if you see at the surface you can see the dead cells or certain proteins called as keratin in nature. So which is tightly packed enough which doesn't allow the entry of any foreign substance. Second is the dermis, which is underlying layer of the epidermis, is generally composed of connective tissues, especially the blood vessels, and also contains hair follicle region, sebaceous glands, sweat glands, everything that also protects the foreign substances. So we will understand one by one. If you can see the skin nature, the skin can be with hair or without a hair. You can see in both the diagram. So I have shown the epidermis is a thin layer, and the dermis is the major layer which is highly vasculated in nature. It carries hair follicles, it carries sebaceous glands and sweat glands. So if you see the one of the secretion of our skin is the sebum. So the sebaceous gland which is present in the skin, especially in the dermal part, generally associated with the hair follicles, produces an oily secretion, so called as sebum. So what does this sebum do is the sebum is generally composed of an acidic component, either it may be a lactic acid or fatty acid, which maintains a pH around a range of 3 to 5. So in this pH most of the bacteria are unable to grow. So what happened is this, because of the sebaceous secretions, because of this oily in nature and the pH is 3 to 5, the microorganism is get entrapped and it won't grow, and our phagocytic cells will eliminate it. This is how the sebum helps in the prevention of us. For example, there will be a possibility of infection can happen. I have already told you that if there is any break in the skin happens because of the scratch or wound or abrasions, causes an entry route for the foreign substance. So sometimes if you see in malaria what happens, the vector, the mosquito carrying the plasmodium will bite it, and this also causes an infection. That means the breaking of skin can be happen because of scratches or wounds, or by the biting of the insects also it can produce. So some bacteria can metabolize this sebum and causes an acne. So this is the major one that generally happens with the skin. So the skin should be intact in nature, so our body will be protected against almost all the foreign substances. If any entry points happen to this, then there will be a stimulation of the adaptive immunity is needed. So second part of our anatomical barrier is the mucous membrane. If you see the mucous membrane are generally present as an underlying tissue beneath the skin. It may be in conjunctiva, it may be in alimentary canal, or it may be a respiratory or urinogenital tracts. The mucosal membrane will be present throughout the layer. So generally I have already told that the outer layer will be generally epithelial in nature, and the inner layer of the mucosal membrane is generally composed of connective tissue, that is, it is filled with blood. So the major routes how the pathogen can enter into the mucous membrane is generally binding with the mucous membrane. It is sometimes this mucous membrane can non-specifically helps to remove it. Sometimes the binding, if you can see with a picture that I have shown to you, the electron micrograph taken from the epithelial cells of the urinary tract, you can see the white colored E. coli bacteria gets attached with the mucosal membrane. So thereby it can produce the infection also. The mucosal membrane acts in two ways. Once it helps in elimination, in certain cases it also allows the bacteria or any foreign substance to bind with you. So the mucosal membrane produces a particular chemical called as mucus. So mucus is nothing but it is a viscous fluid which is secreted by the epithelial cells of the mucous membrane, and the purpose of this is to entrap the foreign substance, especially the bacteria or anything, and by the action of the ciliary action it will remove it. So generally if you see the most presence of cilia will be present in the lower respiratory tract. So this mucus will entrap the foreign substance, and the unidirectional movement of cilia, what happens is this entrapped foreign substances will be thrown away from this. That's why we are getting a sneezing or cough. So generally certain organism can overcome this mucous membrane. So if you see that some organism can escape this mucous membrane and able to cause infection to us. So generally if you see an influenza virus, this is binds with the surface molecules of the mucous membrane of the respiratory tract especially, so they get the flu. So thereby that ciliary action won't be enough to remove this virus, and it also gets entered into our body and cause the disease. So generally certain bacteria which is having a capsule or sheath can also have an ability to bind with the mucous membrane and cause the disease. So this is the major anatomical barrier, that is the skin and the mucous membrane. So in 99% of the cases, these two anatomical barrier helps to prevent us from the foreign substances. The second is the physiological barrier. So if you see the physiological barrier contributes mainly to our innate immunity, generally includes our body temperature, one. Second, the pH, that is the acidic pH of our stomach or the pH of our saliva or anything. Second. Third, it also produces certain soluble and cell associated molecules that will protect against the foreign substances. So if you see the temperature, whenever we get an infection, that means when a foreign substance enter our body, what immediately our body will do is rise the body temperature. So generally our body temperature is around 37 degrees Celsius. Once there is a rise in body temperature, what happens is that the bacteria or the virus won't be able to replicate, so thereby inhibit it. So apart from this, if you see the body temperature from species to species is different. So generally certain species will produce a body temperature to such a high enough, so it will be not allow the growth of the foreign substances, especially the microorganism. For example, if you see, the chickens generally have high state of innate immunity to anthrax, because the chickens are always associated with the cattle. The cattle has a possibility to get an anthrax, which is caused by a bacteria called Bacillus anthracis, leads to respiratory failure, but the chicken doesn't get this because the body temperature of the chicken is high enough, it will inhibit the growth of the bacteria. So this is, we can consider an example of temperature. If we see the pH, that is the hydrogen ion concentration, generally the gastric acidity present in the stomach will help us a major barrier for the prevention of entry of the foreign substance. If you see at the pH around 1 to 2 of our stomach gastric, none of the microorganisms are able to survive into this pH. So anytime when we eat something, we doesn't get infected only because the gastric pH will inhibit the growth of these foreign substances, especially the microorganism. But in certain cases, if you see the newborns, they are highly susceptible to disease because their stomach content pH is acidic level is around 4 to 5 and compared to 1 to 2 of the adults. So apart from this, the third major physiological barrier is the soluble and cell associated molecules. So if you see certain proteins, especially the lysozyme, interferon and complements, which are the three major molecules associated with the innate immunity, and also it inhibits the entry of the foreign substance to other cells and also signals to the stimulation of the adaptive immunity. If we see, the lysozyme is secreted by the most of the cell, especially the macrophages, which is an hydrolytic enzyme. It is also present in the mucous secretion, in tears, has an ability to break down the bacterial cell wall. So generally the bacterial cell wall is made up of a chemical called peptidoglycan. So the lysozyme has an ability to destroy this cell wall, thereby the bacteria will lyse and it will die. So second one is the interferon. So interferons are a peptide hormone-like structure. So this protein, what will do is, once a virus is infected cells, the infected viral cell will secrete this chemical, that is the interferon, which moves towards to the next cell and binds attached with the cell, and what it will do is it will deregulate it, it will down regulates its receptors where the virus can bind and produces a generalized antiviral state to the nearby cells. So this is how interferons will work. Then the complement factors like interleukins will be stimulated, which can produce the stimulate the adaptive immunity. This is how the innate immunity physiological barrier works. And the third barrier of the innate immunity is the phagocytic barrier. So phagocytic barrier is the major barrier contributed by certain cells which is associated with the innate immunity. If you see the phagocytic cells like macrophages, natural killer cells will able to any foreign substance which cross over these two barriers, that is the anatomical and physiological barrier, will be encountered by this phagocytic barrier. So phagocytic, first we understand the process called phagocytosis. So phagocytosis is the one of the type of endocytosis, we otherwise called as a cell eating mechanism. What it will do is the cell uptakes a foreign substance from outside environment and engulfs it. This is called as a phagocytosis. So it is generally conducted by certain specialized cells like blood monocytes, neutrophils and tissue macrophages. So these cells generally do this phagocytosis against the foreign substances. In phagocytosis, you can see what it will do is, first its cell membrane gets expanded, then it surrounds the foreign particles, then it makes a vacuole and gets ingested into it and forming a phagosomes. As you can see from the figure, so you can see from the picture, in the first step what happened is that the cell surface membrane started protruding, gives a evagination, covering the foreign substances. In this case I have put it a green colored bacterium. It covers it like a pseudopodia. Then what happens in the second stage is it joins, then it forms a vacuole, gets ingested. So this vacuole, what we call this is a phagosome. Then this phagosome will fuse with the lysosome. So generally the lysosome is a vacuole is present only in the phagocytic cell. The lysosome carries the enzyme called lysozyme, what we have studied in the physiological barrier. This lysozyme has an ability to break the peptidoglycan and digest anything. So the lysosomes fuses with the phagosomes and called as phagolysosome. Then the lysosome has the enzyme. What it will do is it will digest the ingested material, that is the bacterium. Then it destroys it. After destruction, in the final stage, what happens is it opens up and throws out all the debris of the cell material. So this process is called as the phagocytosis. So the phagocytosis is the major process done by our macrophages and the natural killer cells. There it eliminates in spite of some one or two microbes which overcome this both the physiological barrier, that is anatomic and the physiological barrier. And the final one is the inflammatory barrier. So inflammatory is a response generally produced by our body against a damage of a tissue. So consider a wound has happened. In the wound, a foreign substance has been entered, then a complex sequence of reactions started happening. That response is called as a inflammatory response. So if you see the process of inflammation, how it occurs is that, so a foreign substance, consider a bacteria. So the bacteria, one of its molecular components present in the cell wall is called as lipopolysaccharide, LPS. So what happened is it will enter the broken skin. So once it attaches it causes a stimulation of the inflammatory response, because by interaction with the receptors present in the tissues. So these liposaccharides interact with the receptors and stimulate the inflammatory response. And at the end of the inflammatory response is the stimulation of the specific immune response, that is the adaptive immunity. So this will lead to the development next stage of the immune system, that is the adaptive immunity. If we see the process of the events, how the inflammation occurs, I have shown you through a series of diagrams. As you can see in this diagram, if you see that once a tissue is damaged by the invagination of a some glass or anything. So the bacteria which is associated with the material passes both the epidermis and the dermal layer and is released into the connective tissue. So in this diagram you can see that the first step, what happens is that tissue gets damaged, and once the tissue gets damaged, it releases a certain vasoactive chemotactic factors. So these chemotactic factors are chemical mediators which stimulates the further reaction. So if you see the step, in the first step, what happens in the event of evolution is the release of the chemical mediators. So these chemical mediators generally includes the histamine and kinins. So if we see the histamine, what it will do is the histamine binds with the histamine receptor and it causes the stimulation of the vasodilation. It causes vasodilate. So why it does the vasodilation is that the entry of the macrophagocytic cells to that location, and also it can stimulate the adaptive immunity. So in the second step, what happens in the picture, you can see the permeable capillaries allows the influx of the fluid and cells. So there will be more cells coming to that place, especially the RBCs and WBCs and certain phagocytic cells like natural killer cells and the macrophages will attach it. Then third stage, what happens is that these phagocytes causes inflammation and it started take up the foreign substance to phagocytosis, release the chemical. It will stimulate the further inflammation, and finally what happens, the bacteria is destroyed. And meanwhile, if we see this phagocytic cells, how we can come inside to this location is that by means of three steps. First step, what happen is that the influx of phagocytes can happen first by the margination. That is margination, as you can see, that the addition of this phagocytic cell to the layer of the blood vessel, first one. Second is the diapedesis as extravasation, that is the how between the gaps this will started getting inside. And third is the chemotaxis. What happened is that it will reaches the location of the bacteria, it engulfs it and destroys it. So this is how the inflammatory response will happen. And finally, at the end of inflammation, something happens called as pus formation. So once the phagocytosis engulfs and releases these destroyed cells, along with this the lytic enzymes also gets released. These released lytic enzymes can cause damage to the healthy cells, and these healthy cells started getting damage and accumulation of the dead cells will start occurring to the location of the infection. So this is called as a pus. So generally the pus formation sometimes may be the end of the inflammatory response. So these are the various barriers how an innate immunity happens. So I think this lecture will be very helpful for you for understanding about innate immunity and the barriers of innate immunity. So I thank you very much for your support. So thank you. Bye.